Hey, everybody, it's Natalie Brown Rudd, and today's manna, I am so excited because it's the beginning of the month. And in the beginning of the month, I love to interview someone to hear about their testimonies about the one word activity, the one word and their scripture that they're sitting with for the entire year. And that is what we're going to talk about today. And I'm so excited to have my sister Ruthie. Hey, Ruthie.
Hey, Nat, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's so good to see your face.
Same here. Good to see you. And thank you so much for being, I want to say willing. I hesitate on saying willing because that is her one word. But thank you for your willingness to share your testimony on how you came with this word and the lessons that you've learned from it. But before we jump into that, tell me, how long have you been doing the one word activity and how did you get started with this?
Well, I've been doing it. Maybe I have joined the Wednesday morning prayer call,
Mhm.
and that's how I first became acquainted with one word.
Mhm.
So this is probably maybe my fifth year,
Okay.
um, or maybe for 4 to 5 years, because I remember my first word was narrow, that narrow path.
Yes, I remember
And
that.
and I know 2 years straight my word was seek, because my entire reasoning was seeking the Lord's word, the
Yeah.
truth.
Mhm.
And that's how I started.
Mhm.
And so 2 years straight was seek. And this year I just happened upon a scripture that I had been reading for so long, for years, but
Mhm.
I never zeroed in on this word. And I'm going to take you to it right now.
Okay.
If you all will turn to Matthew 8,
Matthew 8. Okay.
Matthew 8, chapters 1, verses 1 to 4. This leper was, well, let me just go back to what lepers were like in those days. Those lepers were in a colony unto themselves. People were afraid to be around them because, it was contagious.
Mhm.
And so at this point, this one leper must have said, look, I see this man who everybody is running to, and I am going to do this myself. So he goes up to Yeshua, Jesus, and he says, Lord, if you are willing,
Mhm.
you can cleanse me. And Yeshua, Jesus said, I am willing.
Yeah.
And what it really did for me was to show me his tender, merciful heart. He just had such a tenderness that if one of your children will come up to you and say, Mommy, help me do this, or Mommy, I love you, or Mommy, you know how tender your heart becomes. And to me, uh, Yeshua's heart just was tender toward this man, and he healed him. He cleansed him. He says, be cleansed and go thy way.
Mhm.
So I started thinking, I am willing. And what if Jesus said, I'm not willing? Or did he, or ignored him and didn't say anything? Or did, like most of the disciples did at the time, they would try to keep crowds away from him and that sort of thing. And his tenderness jumped out at me. And I'm thinking, what a tender moment when he says, I am willing. And so then it just started me to thinking about that word willing. We wouldn't be sitting here talking to each other, Natalie, if one of us weren't willing.
Right.
One
Right.
of us had to be willing.
Mhm.
And so look how much more comes when both are willing. You're willing, I'm willing. And so that word just jumps out at me. And there's nothing you can do. And I know one of the things you love to talk about is, which is the basics of your ministry, is to say, are you willing to go to the next level?
Right.
You can't go to the next level if you're not willing.
Right. And that is very beautiful how you picked that one word, how that one word convicted you, right?
Yes.
And the passage again is Matthew 8, verses 1 through 4. And the leper said, Lord, if you are willing,
Yes.
If you are willing, you are able to make me clean. And Yeshua, this is really to your point about his tenderness, about his love. He reached out and touched the leper,
Yeah.
right? Back in that day, like you said, they lived separately.
Yes.
Nobody touched them,
No.
came near them, right? And here Yeshua is reaching out and he says, I am willing, be cleansed. And immediately the leper was healed.
Yes.
And like you said, two parties. The man, the leper, came and submitted to the Most High,
Yeah.
Yeshua. He submitted to Yeshua. And Yeshua responded, right?
Yes.
So two parties are willing. So like you said, we have to be willing to submit to Yahuwah, Yahweh, God, follow the example of Yeshua. When we
Yeah.
are willing, then he's willing to show us the way. I think that's beautiful how you express that tenderness.
Yes.
That even in the midst of our sin, Ruthie, he's going to reach out and touch us.
He's going to. And when he sees you are willing, that makes him even more willing.
Right,
And
right.
so one of the things also that I think I probably should do at this point is to give a definition, a dictionary definition of willing.
I was going to ask you, how do
do
you
that? Then you can, yes.
Yeah.
So it says to serve or being prepared to serve, or a readiness to serve. Okay, I'm ready to serve. A readiness to serve, and then being prepared to serve.
Mhm.
So the two words that stuck out is also a desire and an intent. If you don't have the desire, you can't go further. And if you have no intent, you can't go further. So you need those two words to stick in your heads, which stuck in mine: the desire to do and the intent to do.
Mhm.
And it's almost in your relationships with people, human beings every day, husbands, spouses, significant others, children, aunts, uncles. You have to be willing to put parameters where they need to be,
Mhm.
even though it may be your mother who birthed you. If her values aren't yours or yours aren't hers, then there has to be a willingness to come to a meeting place, a medium. And so willing just comes, just every day a part of us is our willingness or unwillingness
Mhm.
to do something.
Mhm.
So I think probably the most hurtful thing in our lives is people we love, like I just mentioned, like our parents, our siblings. If their value is not going toward Yeshua, the Most High, Yahweh, then we're going to have to be unwilling to do a few things.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so unwilling comes in there as well. That the thing that sticks with me is my willingness to serve the Most High first. First is important because then everybody else is not first. And so I kind of look at it like that. What do you want me to do, the Most High? And then I can go forth from there with my willingness to do whatever.
Mhm.
And I think this is also a good time. This past summer, we had the Olympics in Tokyo. And one of the things I thought about was there was not one athlete who was not willing to do the training that they had to do for 4 years to train in their own particular discipline. And I'm thinking, if they could do that, what if we had the willingness that they had to serve Yahweh? Wouldn't that be amazing? Because those people's willingness was amazing. They did things that nobody could ever think you could do with your human body.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so if they had that kind of commitment and willingness, what would it be like if we had that kind of commitment and willingness to serve the Most High?
Yeah, I love that. And when you were saying about the example of the Olympics, the word commitment, I wrote it down and then you said it, right? Because with that willingness, I think your definition, you said being prepared,
Yes.
a readiness. And so we've got to be committed. We've got to be committed to whatever that is. And to your point, it's about the Most High. Are we committed to serving the Most High? Are we committed to putting our desires aside and taking on His desires? I think we talk about dying to self. Are we willing to die to self, to submit to the Most High and follow His way? And then I like how you contrast it with an unwillingness.
Yes.
Like we're not, it's an unwillingness to, what's the word? To, oh, Ruthie, what's the word? We're
Uh, give in to others.
to
Or,
compromise, to compromise.
yes,
That was the
yes,
word. Give in and compromise when Yah says a certain thing.
yes,
We're following that. We're not willing to compromise and
exactly.
try to, give up what He's telling us or hold on to what He's telling us to do to please somebody else, because ultimately we want to please Him. Right?
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying? Yes.
The first thing I said was we have to prioritize and make the Most High first.
You did. So that's
Never,
Matthew 6, Matthew
yeah.
6:33. But seek ye first the kingdom. And I
Yes.
know seek was your word and it was my word at the same time. Seek
Yes.
His kingdom first. Then
Yes.
everything else will fall into place. Make Him the priority. And that's the question. Are we willing to make Him the priority?
Yes. And the other thing is, are we willing to not gloss over, but to really, really hone in on something that, let's say it's been bothering you in your head, I'm not quite sure about this or that or the other. We have to be willing to delve into that which is bothering us. Bothering means on our minds. So in other words, if I say, who is this God these people serve? Who is He? Then it's up to you to say, well, let me find out.
Right. And that goes back to your word seek.
Yes.
Right? Seek
Yes.
Him, seeking His truth, seeking like you, and you always talk about this. We need to worship the Most High, how He wants us to worship Him, not how
Yes.
we think
Exactly.
to worship Him. And so how do we got to seek His truth and seek out,
Yes.
how does He tell us to worship Him?
Yes. And then what He hates most is when we gloss over what He said. He doesn't, when you're talking to your children, you don't want them to gloss over what you said.
No.
Wait a minute, stop, stand right there and listen to me. We don't allow our children to gloss over something that's important to us. And so we make it known to them how important it is. And so that's the same way the Most High does. He makes it known, and He does not want us to gloss over what He said.
Right. He is a God of details.
Yes.
Down to the very minute, tiniest detail. He is a God of details. And to your point, we have to be willing to seek His truth, search the scriptures, and I would say be willing to let go of anything that is getting in the way
Exactly.
of us worshiping Him in spirit and in truth, right?
And that reminds me, I think I've told you this story before. I was in the 5th grade. So you're usually about 10 in the 5th grade. So I'm 10 years old and the teacher calls us to the board to work out this math problem. Well, I am horrible in math. And so I'm scrunching and writing very small on the blackboard. And all of a sudden, here comes tears. So the teacher looked at me and she didn't say anything, but when the class was over, she called me up to her and she says, my dear, it is not my desire to make you cry. She says, I have to see what you did. I wanted to see how you got to that answer, because if you have the wrong premise, you'll never have the right answer. And when you're 10 years old, that stuck with me now to like I'm 110 now. It stuck with me all those years. A 5th grade teacher whom she probably wasn't, she may have been big in the community and she obviously was a dedicated teacher. But what that lady told me at 10 years old, I've never forgotten. If you have the wrong premise, you'll never have the right answer. And so she says, all I want to do is not make you cry, but I want to see how you got there. How did you get that answer? How did you get there? And so if it's wrong, then I can help you correct it. But if nobody ever corrects it, you'll always have the wrong premise and never have the right answer. And so I kind of look at that as a template for me for actually the rest of my life. I try to find the right premise, and I try to hone in on the right premise. Because what did she say to that little 10-year-old? If you don't have the right premise, you'll never have the right answer. Right. So then, you know, so that's kind of how I use as a guide and as a template. And I want to have the right premise with God, with the Most High. I want to have that right premise.
Right. And that is so important. And I remember you sharing that, especially with the word seek, because it was about seeking his truth. It was about moving away from what you thought you knew or following the traditions of what you've been taught, and to actually go to the word and say, what does the word say about me worshiping the Most High? And I remember when you talk about stuff troubling you, that was one of the things that was troubling you, is that how do you worship? How are we pleasing him in our worship? And so here is your word now, willing. And you're willing to keep following him. You're willing to keep learning how to worship him, how he desires. And I think that that's an important question as we go into this month of examining our walk. That's our theme for this month, examining our walk and evaluating our spiritual growth. Are we willing to take a close look at what we believe? And are we willing to make certain that it aligns with the word? And then are we willing to let go, as it says in Hebrews, of anything that is causing us to stumble or causing us to, preventing us from growing spiritually and hearing the Most High's voice and obeying the Most High's voice? So this is a really good word. And I know you came into it halfway through the year, because you started off with the word seek again this year. And as you were seeking, you came across this story in Matthew 8, and that word tugged at you. And the Holy Spirit, I think, started to stir something up in you. And I remember when you shared it, and it was like, yeah, willing. That was, it stirred something in me. Like, are you willing to follow him no matter what it costs?
Yes, that's true.
Right? Because see, some of us are willing to follow him as long as nothing changes.
Exactly.
As long as we're comfortable with what we're doing.
Exactly.
But are you willing to follow him at all costs? And I think about the story of Peter. When he told Peter to come and Peter got out the boat. See, Peter was willing to step out of his comfort zone and face his fears, because Yeshua was the one who he was calling. So we could talk about this forever. But now, what other scriptures, because I know you have other scriptures besides Matthew 8 that you want us to look at. What other scriptures would you share with us?
Well, one of the things I did, and I'm not a real Google type person, but when I did Google willing, it said there's 199 times in the Bible that the word willing is used, and in 12 translations. And so I said, oh, okay. And so I'm just going to reference a few that I would like for those who are looking at this video to besides Matthew 8, start with Matthew 8. But then there's also, if you can get a pen or pencil, those of you who are watching this video, and turn to, write down Leviticus 26, verse 21, Psalms 51, verse 12, Psalm 70, verse 1, Psalm 110, verse 3, Psalm 119, verse 108, Psalm 130, verse 4, Psalm 130, verse 7, and Isaiah 1, verse 19, Isaiah 42, verse 21. And last but not least, I looked at Ezekiel 3, verse 7. So those are some of the references, but like I said, there's 199 times that word is in the Bible, and through 12 translations. So just a few will, and you can hone in on as many as you'd like, but I think I did 10 out of 199. So I think that you would get the message.
Okay, very
Well,
good. And I will put those scriptures down in the description box so that people can actually go back and reference them. Thank you so much for sharing them. Before we close out, I want to know what's the biggest message for you, or the biggest message that you've learned since you've been sitting with this word willingness, and what is it that you would share with those of us as we are going through examining our walk and looking at our commitment to serving the Most High? What is it that you've learned and that you would share with us?
what I've learned is I'm not as willing as I want to be, and I was really convicted with this word. It let me know that I was nowhere near where I need to be with putting the Most High first. So you think you are doing it, and you tell your friends you are, and you tell yourself you are, but you're not. And so I'm always finding an excuse for not doing what I know he wants me to do. And he's getting I don't, but what spurs me on is I don't want him to get upset with me. I'm always thinking about David, and I'm thinking, oh, do I ever relate to David? David always says in Psalm 38, he says, "Do not rebuke me in your wrath, nor chastise me in your hot displeasure." So remember how when you were a child, and especially if you had siblings, they couldn't wait to tell on you, and they couldn't wait till mom or dad got home so they could tell what you did, and you would do everything in your power to dissuade your parents from thinking about that. So what I did was got out of the way. I didn't want them to see my face, to remember anything that I have done wrong. And I think that we do the same thing with the Most High. We try to move away from him so he won't see us. But he knows. He knows when we are not totally committed. He knows when we have not put him first. He knows whatever conclusions we've come to, he was not the first consideration. And so what I'm trying to do is make myself, to remind myself, here I am talking about the word willing, but that word really is convicting me, because it's helping me to know that I have to go all the way, that I can't half step. And one of the things that he does not like is half stepping. He just doesn't. And if you don't believe it, think about the churches that he talked to. And he was talking to the church of Laodicea, I believe, when he said, "You are lukewarm, and I will spew you out of my mouth." I don't want him to spew me out of his mouth. So I want to stay willing to keep him first. And that's what I've gotten out of the word willing, to stay with it.
I'm just trying to capture everything that you said because it's good. It's good, right? And that is the beauty of the one word activity. That word convicts you.
Yes.
That word pricks you. That word is like a mirror
Yes.
for you to look into and ask yourself the question, are you willing to walk with him? And for me, my word is truth. Are you willing to speak his truth? Are you willing to put aside the lies that you may believe and the lies of what you thought should be, and walk in the truth of what is, right?
Yes.
And so all of us, this is a message for all of us. Whatever your word is, the Most High is convicting you. If your word is prepare, I know, Danielle, that's your word. And are you prepared? I know somebody's word, I can't remember. A couple of you got the word listen. Gloria, you've got the word listen, I think. Are you listening to the Most High? Do you hear his voice? Some of us have the word study. Are you studying the word? Whatever your word is, the Most High gave it to you for a reason. Now, if you didn't go through the activity of prayer and fasting or prayer and seeking the Most High to get your word, then it may not be that he's really speaking to you through it, because I really think that we don't just pull the word out of the air, that it really is in prayer, asking the Most High, what is it that you want me to grow on? What is it that I need to do? So if you've gone through that process of praying and asking him, I believe that he's speaking to you through your word. I do. And so we have to be convicted. And with that conviction, we then have to be willing to do whatever it's necessary to draw closer to him. Because the reason we do this activity, and Ruthie, you know this, is to go to the next level.
Yes.
It's all about being intentional about our spiritual growth. If he is the most important part of your life, then your life should reflect that. How you think, how you live, how you speak, how you approach the ups and downs of life should all be reflective of your relationship with the Most High. And so thank you for sharing this lesson about being convicted, because that's the whole point of the activity, is to convict us, to show us where we are so that we can then go to where we need to be, the next level. Oh, Ruthie, you blessed my soul today. Yes, you did.
Well, you always bless my soul, Natalie. And speaking of which, I am I'm inspired by your willingness to go to the next level at every juncture. You help us so much. All of us love you so much because of your conviction to help us in our journey. So I just want to thank you. And I'm thanking you on behalf of all of us because we all feel the same way.
Oh, Ruthie, hallelujah. All praises to the Most High. Thank you for encouraging me. I'm going to receive that and give him praise, give him the glory, because as he teaches me, he convicts me to then share that with everyone else, because I just love him. I love his word. And I just want to serve him with my life. You know, you're about to get me all crying and teary-eyed, but it's so important for me to then be able to share that with others. That truly is my calling. And I'm so grateful that he loves us the way that he does, and that his grace and his mercy follows us all the days of our lives. And I'm grateful that he puts people in our paths.
Yes, he does.
That we can be on this journey together.
Yes.
That we can honor him together. So Ruthie, thank you so much for blessing us. It has been a pleasure to talk with you. I'm grateful for the lessons that you've learned and your willingness to share it with not just me, but with all of you who are watching. And I pray that you will take this manna this week and you will dig into the scriptures. We shared Matthew 8, verses 1-4, but then I'm going to put the other scriptures in the description box of the video. Dig into the word and ask yourself, are you willing to go to the next level and follow the Most High? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to live a lifestyle of faith that honors him? I pray that you are, and I look forward to our time together. Be blessed.